So 8-7 is maybe the thing. Naomi, you still have YouTube open. Shut it. Not on mine. So quadratic formula is maybe a bit detailed for some, but it's not hard if you just take your time and do what needs doing. Lincoln, I still can't see you. So here's what we're doing, okay? There is this formula. I'm not going to sing it for you again. It's this formula right here. X equals negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a, and all over 2a. So you want the whole thing over 2a. Are you working on it, Lincoln? Just gonna wait until Lincoln's got his Bluetooth. Turn your Bluetooth on.
It's been on this whole look at right. I just turned off everything. I've turned on and off everything.
It happens in Spanish.
Yeah, I've watched
It's because you have some fancy, like, I don't know, but I feel like I should make you sit right here because you're the one I need to see the screen for. No, sure not. Oh, hey, there it is. Yes. See that? Magic. Okay. So here's the deal with the quadratic formula. This is just like most of the others where you need it to be set equal to 0 first. A lot of the times it will be set equal to 0 for you, but some of the time it won't be, and that's got to be your first step, is make sure that your equation equals 0, okay? Ooh, that's not what I want. I want a highlighter. Set it equal to 0, and make sure it's in standard form. And then you're going to figure out what is your A value, what is your B value, and what is your C value, okay? That's all stuff we've done before. We know how to find A, B, and C, right? Then all you do is you take those values and you drop them into that formula and you simplify. So it's not hard, but there are little details that if you do it wrong, you get very different answers. So I need you to focus. I need you to get your calculator out, and I need you to try this along with me.
Is there a plus and minus button on the calculator?
No, you have to do it as two separate things, depending on how it's set up. Jaden, will you shut that cupboard for me while you're over there? All right, take a look at the example that you see there. In this example, you have an A value, a B value, and a C value. Can anyone tell me the A value in this quadratic? It's a 1. It's whatever comes in front of x squared. Hear me on this, because some of you, I think, have confused this. Your A value is in front of x squared. It does not include x squared, okay? So your A value is just 1. What's your B value? -5. What's your C value? -36. Okay, so you're always keeping the sign that's in front of that number. And now what you're going to do is you're going to take that formula. I'm just going to copy it and bring it over here so it's a little closer to what we're doing. You're going to take that formula and you're going to drop in what we know. Okay, this should be the easy part. It says x equals, what is a negative B value right now? A +5. A -5 made negative is a +5. So 5 plus or minus the square root. Okay, here's the part that always causes the issue. Are you ready for it? If I say B squared, what is my B value? -5. If you plug -5 squared into your calculator, do you know what it tells you?
nothing.
No. It tells you -25, and that's wrong.
Because you have to put
You have to put parentheses, okay? So just get in the habit, even if it's a positive number. When it's positive, you don't need the parentheses, but if you just get in the habit of always putting them there, then you won't forget them when you need them. So the B is a -5 squared minus 4 times the a value, which is 1, times the c value, which is negative 36. And then all of that, the 5 included, goes over 2 times the a value. Okay? If you can get to this point for me, I will give you some credit for this problem because you at least plugged things in the right places and you put parentheses where there needed to be parentheses. I would say your next best move is to plug this into your calculator. Okay? Don't plug the radical in. Just plug everything under the radical. Do you recognize this? B squared minus 4ac?
Yeah, that was a solution.
The what?
Solution.
How many solutions there are in a problem. It's the discriminant. That's where we get the discriminant from, is the quadratic formula. This is what tells you how many solutions one of these has. So plug that into your calculator right now. I want to know what you're getting. You should be getting 169. Okay? What? Just wait. We'll get there. We'll get there. Okay, so here's where you should be. You're going to do 5 plus or minus. Are you with me? 5 plus or minus the square root of 169 over 2. Okay? What's the square root of 169? She square rooted it. That's how she got 13. You just plugged in the radical with it, right?
13.
Yeah. So that becomes 13. You're going to plug this in. 5 plus or minus 13. So plug the square root of 69 in. You'll get 13. And you divide by 2. Okay. Now here's the deal. You didn't get what? Did you put parentheses around your negative 5?
But I don't get how you put like plus or minus 5.
You don't. All you're plugging in right now is the highlighted pink.
Oh.
Just plug in what's under the radical symbol. Okay, so once you're here, here's what this is saying. There are 2 answers happening here. This is saying 5 plus 13 divided by 2 and 5 minus 13 divided by 2. So at this point, I always just split it up. 5 plus 13 divided by 2 and 5 minus 13 divided by 2. Now here's where the other issue happens. If you plug this into your calculator, it will be wrong because your calculator is not as smart as you are. Remember what a division bar means?
Like the parentheses.
It creates parentheses essentially, okay? So what you have to do is you have to plug it in. I wouldn't plug it all in as one. I would just plug in 5 plus 13 and hit enter and then divide by 2, okay? So this is 18 divided by 2, which is 9, okay? This one, 5 minus 13 divided by 2, so you get a negative 8 divided by 2 is a negative 4. So the solutions to this quadratic are 9 and negative 4. Okay? So you're going to get 2 solutions most of the time, not every time,
How do you write that?
but most of the time. How do you write it? You can literally just write it like this. Just put a box around the 2 numbers and I'm fine with that. Or you may write it x equals 9 comma negative 4. Don't put parentheses around it. It's not a point. Okay? Sydney. Yeah.
When I put my calculator, I got 13 on the first one. Like, I didn't put the 5 plus minus in front of it, and then I just got that.
Well, 13 is the square root of 169.
Yeah, but I didn't get 169.
Because you plugged in the radical. I said don't plug the radical in, just plug in what's under the radical. So you just put it under, which is fine.
Okay.
It's just that sometimes you're going to get a decimal there and then it's not fine and you
Okay.
need
Yeah,
the
yeah,
169 then.
Okay.
So,
Alright, because I was like, I got that, but I didn't know I looked at
Yeah.
it wrong. I got it.
okay, look at number 1. This one says x squared minus 8x equals 20. What did we say your first step always has to be? Subtract the 20, set it equal to 0. So if I want this to equal 0, it's x squared minus 8x minus 20 equals 0. Once you've done that, once it equals 0, then you can set it up so that you know your A value and your B value and your C value. Khalees, will you put these away? Will you put your earbuds away? Thank you. What is A? A is 1. What is B? -8. And what is C? -20. So you're going to take those, and now you're going to drop it into the formula. So it's x equals a negative b. What is a negative b right now? A positive 8. Plus or minus the square root, parentheses, b squared is -8 squared, minus 4 times your a value times your c value. All of that, the whole thing, goes over 2 times your a value, which is 1. Okay, what's your next step? What in the calculator? Not the whole thing. You're just going to plug in what's under the radical. Don't plug in the radical. I'm going to show you in a minute why you don't want the radical right away. For now, just trust me. I'll show you in a minute why it matters. So plug that in, -8 squared with parentheses, minus 4 times 1 times -20. What are you getting? What? No. 144. Are you getting 144? Do you know where you went wrong? Did you put...
No, I was asking if I was right.
Did you put parentheses, Micah, around your -8?
It was his calculator, I'm on.
Oh. Do you see where it's wrong?
Yes, he messed up something with the parentheses.
So -8 squared and then minus 4 times 1 times -20. Technically, you guys, you don't need parentheses here. You could just do the times and the times. That would be fine. I just always do parentheses. So this is 8 plus or minus the square root of 144 over 2. Is that what you got so far?
I don't know.
Oh. Oh, okay. Simple mistake. What's your next move?
So then you plug it in.
The radical. Not everything, just the radical. We want to know if that radical is a perfect square. Right, Shane?
Yeah.
Yeah, what's the square root of 144?
12.
Yes, so you're going 8 plus or minus 12 over 2, okay? If it's not a perfect square, we do this different. So you do have to check, is that number a perfect square? Sophia?
Are you gonna formula something?
Yeah, you'll have the formula for quiz and test. Okay, now at this point, this is saying 8 plus 12 and 8 minus 12. So here's where you split it, okay? You're going to do 8 plus 12 divided by 2, and you're going to do 8 minus 12 divided by 2, okay? That simplifies, and you need to make sure that you simplify the top first, okay? So 8 plus 12 is 20 divided by 2, so that's 10. 8 minus 12 is -4, and then divide by 2, so that's -2. So you should be getting 10 and -2 there. Did we get that? Okay. Okay, how do we feel about that so far? Can I move on to another concept, or we need another one of those? Khalees. Did you check in my drawer? Okay, now here's where things change, okay? It's the same process, but you just can't simplify quite like we could on the previous one. So go to number 9. Okay. You're going to get some irrational solutions, which we did yesterday. So you know how to do this. It's just going to be in a different starting setup. What is your A? What is your B? What is your C on number 9?
141.
141. Okay. So it's x equals What? Negative 4, right? The opposite of your b value. So if b is positive right now, then that's a negative 4, plus or minus the square root of b squared. So 4 squared minus 4 times a times c. So 4 times 1 times 1. That whole thing is over 2 times 1. What's your next move? Multiply what's under the radical. So it's going to be negative 4 plus or minus the square root. Plug that in. What do you get? Luke.
If there's like ones, do you have to write them in?
When you're multiplying by them, no.
I don't know.
It wouldn't change anything. No. 4 squared minus 4 times 1 times 1. 12. Okay? So that's what's going to go under your radical over 2. Okay? Luke asked a good question. When there's a 1 in there, not if your b value is 1, right? If this first one is 1, put it in there because that's going to be a 1 because you're not multiplying it by anything. But if there's a 1 here, here, or here, it's not going to change anything. So you technically don't have to write them in. If you don't trust yourself to do a good job with that, then just write them all in. Okay? Okay, now take a look at this. Plug in the square root of 12 in your calculator. What do you get? A weird decimal. We don't want weird decimals, okay? So instead, what you're going to do is you're going to take that square root of 12 and you're going to simplify it. What perfect square is 12 divisible by? 4. You're going to look at your list of perfect squares. 4, 9, 16, 25, right? You're looking at those numbers and saying, what can I divide by? I can divide 12 by 4. So 4 times what? 3. 4 times 3 gets me 12. What does that simplify to? The square root of 4 is 2. The square root of 3 we can't do anything with. So this is going to replace this. So right now it's the negative 4 plus or minus 2 times the square root of 3 over 2. You have one last thing you can do. Does anyone see it? You can divide. If everything in the problem is divisible by the same thing, doesn't have to be that bottom number. It could be that bottom number is a 4, but everything's divisible by 2, then divide everything by 2. Right now, everything is divisible by 2. The radical doesn't count here. The radical is, you're saying 2 rad 3s, so when we divide by 2, now it's 1 rad 3. Okay, so what you're going to do is you're going to divide this and you're going to divide this. So that's going to be a negative 2 plus or minus the square root of 3 because that 2 over 2 is just going to be a 1. You don't have to put a 1 in. And that is your answer. How many answers is that? It's 2 answers. You could write it as negative 2 plus rad 3 and negative 2 minus rad 3. But this is the easier way to write it. Just leave it as a plus or minus. Yeah, Olivia.
How do you know, like, to put, like, the 2, like, what if you mix up the 2 and 3?
That's a problem. So you, like, say I have the square root of 32, okay? When you're looking for a perfect square that's divisible by, you want the biggest one. So 16 times 2 would be the biggest. If you write this as the perfect square and the one that's not a perfect square, you can't take the square root of 2, right? It's just going to stay the square root of 2, but you can take the square root of 16. So if you can actually square root that number, then you do. And if you're not sure, plug it into your calculator. The square root of 16, and it will tell you that's 4. 4 rad 2 is very different than 2 rad 4. So you don't want to mix them up. You want to take the square root of the perfect one and not of the other one.
So it's not always going to be like the biggest one on the left?
It's not always the biggest. No, it's always the one that's a perfect square on the left. Yeah. Okay, let's go to number 14. I'm going to have you try this one on your own. See if you can do that one. So first, solve for 0. Second, find your ABC. Third, plug it all in and see what you get. Brooklyn. Yeah. Let's hear it. It's okay to be wrong. Oh. We gotta move the 12 over so that it's the whole thing equals 0. All right. Anyone want to give me an answer? Is anyone done right now?
Wait, I divided it. I was thinking, so I should divide it. Negative.
Wait, what did you say?
Divided by 12.
Don't act like you.
Divided by 12.
Candy. Candy.
Wait,
Put it away and do math. Math.
I finished, but I don't know if I wrote it right.
What'd you get?
Okay, because I feel like those are all divisible.
Hold on. Hey, shh. Listen.
I don't know if this is right, but like they're all divisible by 3.
Okay.
So I divided by 3 and like took that out. And
Okay.
then I got x equals plus or minus 2, like square root 5. There's like a 3 outside. If that makes sense.
You're on the right track. You have some things right. Anyone get something different? Micah, what'd you get? Oh, that's not an answer. Wait, we're almost done. Hey.
I got x equals 6 plus or minus the square root of 180 and divided by 6.
Okay, so that's good.
But I don't know what to do after that.
Now you just have to break that 180 down.
Didn't you divide it by 6?
What do you get?
I got x equals 6 plus or minus square root of 30.
You divided while it was under the radical. You can't do that. 1 plus or minus what? Oh,
I think I'm.
you're very close.
Is it 1 plus or minus something?
Uh-huh.
Plus or minus 0?
Not 0. Anyone else think they have it? Okay, let's lay it out. Here's how it goes. You're doing, stick with me. Hey, gentlemen, do this with me. X equals a negative b, so positive b, plus or minus the square root of b squared in parentheses. If you don't put that in parentheses, you will get the wrong answer. Negative 6 squared minus 4 times the a value, which is 3, times the c value, which is negative 12, all over 2 times 3. Then you're going to take your calculator out and you're going to plug this in. Not the radical, just what's underneath the radical. And who? Sophia? Who? Someone got 180. Olivia got 180? Which is what you should be getting. 6 plus or minus the square root of 180 over 6. How many of you got here? Few of you. Okay, this is really good. If you can get to this point, good job. Okay? What? What? Oh, I don't know. It depends on the problem. You'll get part of the credit. Okay, at this point, you need to break that 180 down. Do you remember how to do that? What are we looking at? The list of perfect squares. So you're going to take these numbers and you're going to figure out which of these,
Yeah. That's kind of what I was thinking.
8, 9, 10. There's all the perfect squares, okay? your job is figure out what is 180 divisible by. So you go 180 divided by 100, 180 divided by 81, 180 divided by 64, until you get a whole number answer. So like 180 divided by 81 gives you 2.222222. That's how you know that is not right. You don't want a decimal answer, you want a whole number answer. So 180 divided by 64, 2.8125. That doesn't work. 180 divided by, and you keep working through, 36. Okay, 36 times what? 5. So if this is the square root of 36 times the square root of 5, you take the perfect square now, which is 6 times the square root of 5. So this replaces the 180. Okay, so you come over here and you say 6 plus or minus 6 rad 5 over 6. What do you notice? Everything's divisible by 2. Everything's divisible by something bigger. 6. They're all divisible by 6, right? So 6 over 6 is 1. Plus or minus 6 over 6 is 1. And then you've got rad 5. So 1 plus or minus 1 rad 5. I would just write it 1 plus or minus the square root of 5. Okay, but if you leave the 1 in there, that's fine. So just reduce. Khalees, what was your question? Did you have a question? Yeah, you always want the biggest one because 9 will work, but then you'll have to break down the 20 on the other side. All right.